Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today we're playing ninjas. That's right. I've played this a couple of times before and I quite enjoy playing it. I like the idea of playing a tempo deck where you can just snowball ridiculous card advantage as it goes on, which is exactly what our little ninjas will do. So if you're unfamiliar with them, there's these two ninjas that we're trying to put into play. Ingenious Infiltrator, which means whenever a ninja you control deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card. And the other one is whenever a ninja you control deals combat damage to a player, reveal the top card of your library, put it into your hand, each opponent loses life equal to its mana value. So both of these provide you card advantage and they both trigger on any ninjas hitting. So our Changeling Outcast, even on its own, can hit and trigger them, which is a way you can push through some difficult board states. We've got Moon Circuit Hacker, which is something I really enjoyed when I played this last time. It comes in for just 1 mana, and the turn it comes in, it just draws you a card. After that, it becomes a looter, but just being able to counter it the first time is great. And it's a ninja, so when it's in play, it's going to be proccing all of your synergies with these guys. So essentially what we're trying to do is drop an Ornithopter or a Changeling Outcast on turn 1, and turn 2, drop in one of these ninjas and start drawing card advantage. And to protect this, we've got some Dazes, some Force of Wills, some Snuff Outs, Murderous Cut, Force of Negation. We've got a lot of ways of messing with our opponent's stuff. A couple of Fatal Pushes too. We also have a couple of Retrofitter Foundry, which is a card that hasn't impressed me too much, but I think for ninjas it makes some amount of sense because these are Thopters and these are Thopters, so you can turn them straight away into 4/4s using your Retrofitter Foundry, which is quite a nice way of making your rubbish enablers into something a bit better. And maybe you do get in a situation later on where you make enough tokens that you can go wide and ninjutsu them, or just sink enough mana into this if something's gone a bit wrong and pull away that way. So that's kind of the plan. We've got usual brainstorms and ponders to help it all tick around. We have more basics, so we've gone for a Prismatic Vista mana base with some basics in rather than the Wastelands that I've played before in this list. But we'll see how it goes. This was a 5-0 list that I found. I thought I'd give a whirl. Sideboard wise, we've got some interesting stuff going on here. So we've got 4 Leyline of the Void. If you know me, you know I love hard graveyard hate. Not something that can be discarded, but something that you can put into play straight away and it just does its thing. And we can protect it because we've got counter spells. This feels pretty good. And when we're doing that, we also have these Helm of Obediences that we can board in just as an I win button, which is an interesting one. I'm not necessarily sure that the graveyard matchups are ones that require you to need this as a win condition. So I'm not entirely convinced about this, but we're going to give it a go. It was in the list, so why not? We have 1 Brazen Borrower, which is normally something you'd see in the main as a 2 of, but this list has gone for more hard removal in the form of like pushes, snuff outs and cuts. And we've also got the 2 Force of Negations in the main. So we're going to be slightly better against some of the combo decks. We've got 2 Plague Engineers, which should help us out versus all the elves and things. A couple of back to basics for these slower control decks, which are probably going to be quite challenging for us. So this can really mess with their resources. And a couple of Hydroblast for some of the red decks that are trying to play some things that beat us on the board, whether that's Caves of Chaos Adventurer or the Goblin Rabble Master. Things like that, we can interfere with them that way. Or like decks that are going to have red removal for our guys, things like Fury, etc. This is going to be useful in those spots. That's pretty much it for the deck. I haven't really got anything else to say about other than I'm quite excited to see how this build plays out compared to the other builds I've played. The main differences being the no Wastelands, having the Retrofitter Foundries here. I like that it's got 4 Moon Circuit Hackers. This is a card that's really impressed me. So the Force of Negation seems like a meta call. Obviously not very good during the sort of initiative winter, but now we've sort of come out of that a bit. This should be a bit better against all these combo decks. All right, just before we jump into the league with this, let me just say like, comment, subscribe. These things cost you nothing and they really help me out. So why not give it a go? Okay, let's play some ninjas. Right, this is our opening hand. Doesn't have any creatures in, which isn't great for our aggro tempo deck. So we're going to mulligan this one. This one doesn't have any lands, so that's another mulligan. I think we probably have to stick on this one. Probably looking at getting rid of 2 mana sources here. And see if we can get some Moon Circuit hacking going on. A Mox Diamond, we can't interact with our opponent on this turn because we only have a Daze. A Plateau, this probably means we're looking at Naya Depth. Yeah. Naya Depth's pretty good at the moment. Now the initiative's kind of disappeared. Alright, we've got ourselves an island. And not much else to go with it. I think this is going to be a bit of a tricky one to begin with. Our opening hand did not help us. Maybe we're supposed to mulligan to 4. But that just means that we're one removal spell off of losing the game pretty much, or at least this way we have ways of protecting our guys once they're in play. Windswept piece from our opponent and a pass. So they're just going to hold up and rotate this flagstones away with their Reclaimer. Okay, so we've got a push. Is that where we want to be right now? We can either play out our Moon Circuit Hacker here and hold up Daze, or we can push away the Reclaimer to stop them getting something the following turn. I think we just have to kill the Reclaimer here. We can hold up a Daze as well, but I don't think we're winning the game with this Reclaimer in play. Right, it checks our Moon Circuit Hacker for a start, but also it's just going to get them everything they need going forward. Alright, so now they've done the fetch land, they're going to rotate away their flagstones, which gets them another land and the one they want. So we'll get a little bit of information what's in our opponent's hand by what they get. If we see like a Thespian stage, then we know we're probably looking to get Dark Depths out pretty soon, which is not something we can really deal with right now. Yeah, so there's a Thespian stage. So I'm imagining our opponent can make a Dark Depths next turn. All right. Maybe we should have got Underground Sea with our swamp so we had both Dazes available, but we can't really stop them crop rotating because they've got so much mana anyway. Okay, so they're probably just going to crop rotate end of turn. The question is it worth us playing this guy considering our opponent's probably going to crop rotate? We can conceal this information. I don't think this lowly guy is going to win us the game. I think we're just going to conserve the information. I'm so sure that our opponent, because they got this, is going to be able to make the 2020 here. Just want to see a little bit more information, then we're going to scoop. And then we can at least sideboard. Oh, they didn't have it. Okay. Maybe that was foolish of us. Maybe they're not playing around it because we got the mana open. A Caracas. Okay. Prismatic Vista. Okay, we can go and get ourselves an island here. I guess now we are in Moon Circuit Hacker territory. So we have double Daze, but they have the ability to play around this. Yeah, so here's a crop rotation. They were just waiting to get the information out of us. So they're going to crop rotate for Dark Depths, make the Dark Depths, and we die. Oakley dokley. What's going to be useful here? Back to basics and Brazen Borrower seem reasonable. We can board in things like Leyline for the purposes of stopping their Life from the Loam, making their Elves weaker, making their Knight of the Reliquary weaker. Those are things we can do, but we can just kill those things. So I think that's probably a better shout. Daze doesn't feel... I guess on the play, though, it's kind of good. But I think what we're bringing in is just better. I think we don't really want these Dazes against the big mana deck. I think this looks okay. We've got removal spells for some stuff. We've got bounce, a couple of Force of Negations if needs be. I don't think we want to be going down to Leyline in the Void territory here. We'll just submit like this. Alright, so we're on the play. We can Island, Ponder, Ornithopter, hold up Force of Negation, and try and drop this Yuriko. That seems fine. Because our opponent's a Wasteland deck, we do have to go and get an island with this. Otherwise, you basically one Wasteland away from not being able to play the game anymore. Island. Ponder. So we're looking for a land. Okay, we find some lands. We'll put this on top. We probably want all of these lands, so just put them all on top. We will not shuffle our library. And we'll play on Ornithopter. So we can Force of Negation, but it will cost us a back to basics, which is quite a high prize in this matchup. So it has to be something really good for us to do that. It does exile, so it's a quite good thing to hit a Life from the Loam with. What our opponent can do this turn, though, is hold up like a Swords to Plowshares. So if we put our Yuriko in, we don't really get the value out of it, which looks like what they're doing. So I think we're playing this one out. We go to attacks. If they don't blow this up, I don't think we're going to put our guy in because it's such an obvious Swords to Plowshares here. We don't want to give them a free opportunity just to kill our guy. And if they want to hold up mana every turn, we can at least slow them down a little bit that way. Now we need to get something on the board. We know the top card of our library is the little Changeling. The choice is, do we want that Changeling in hand? I don't think we do, and we're going to shuffle it off the top soon. Right, so we've got a Tiger, a Caracas. So this is pretty strong against our Yuriko. But we have a back to basics to play next turn. Elvish Reclaimer. Sure, so we can kill this with a Fatal Push in a second. And then we can try and lock them under a back to basics. Let's crack this. Swamp. Push this little guy. Goodbye to you. So if we can draw another piece of mana, we can put this one in, and when they go to kill it, we can then get rid of the other one. So what we're going to do here is we're going to Get ourselves an island. And we're just going to get rid of their green source. So take them off of green and red mana in terms of what's on board. That doesn't mean they won't have anything here. But we're not going to attack with our Ornithopter because there's no point. We're playing this one very slow and a bit cagey, but if we find another black mana source, then we can attack, ninjutsu a guy in. If they go to kill it, we then ninjutsu the other one in. Right. This is probably going to get them a basic. They did not get a basic. Interesting. They have a red blast. Do I want to counter this? I think we probably do. And we'll pitch the guy that they can bounce with the Caracas. So not only is this getting rid of the red blast, it's also effectively getting rid of their plateau right now. So this seems relatively worthwhile. Our opponent's deck obviously has a lot of mana in it, but right now they're not really able to do a great deal. A Moon Circuit Hacker. This is a pretty good draw for us. So we go to attacks. Ninjutsu this Moon Circuit Hacker in. If they go to kill this, we put in the Infiltrator. Right, we just get a card here. And we replay this Ornithopter, and then next turn we can put the Infiltrator in. We've got a removal spell we can cast on any creature they may produce. Now we're starting to work at their life total. We get to draw 2 cards and discard 1 in our combat step. I think we do just ninjutsu this one and try and speed the game up a bit here. Nice. So we want this one on the bottom so that we have the most amount of cards to decide what we're doing. So we're drawing a whole load of cards right now. Okay, they're scooping up because we're going to be drawing so many cards every turn now, and we've stopped them from doing what they're doing. So we're rewarded for playing that one slowly and cautiously. Pretty happy about that. One thing we can think about bringing in here is Hydroblast for their red blast and for their Minsk and Boo, which is one of the scarier things that they can play. But if we're boarding these in, what are we cutting? So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 removal spells for the elf. Don't think we can really go lower than that. Maybe we can drop a Foundry, and then it gets a bit tougher from there if we want to keep these in. Maybe it's a Ponder. Oh, let's try like this. Because if they're on the play, they're more likely to get that sort of thing going. So we have an emergency Force of Negation if we want it, but ideally we want to just play our Outcast and play our Infiltrator. This hand seems fine. Needs a little bit of help, but these are ninjas, so they can draw us a lot of cards effectively if we have the Infiltrator in play. Maybe we're supposed to trim on Yuriko because they're a Caracas deck. A Green Sun Zenith. I don't think this is worth counterspelling. Right, let's play out Changeling. So we have the Yuriko now to pitch to the Force of Negation, which is the better of the two because this one is a legend, and we don't want to just give them an easy out with either a crop rotation into Caracas or just naturally drawn Caracas. So our opponent could play a Knight this turn, which is not something we can interact with using our Force of Negation. But if they do that, it shields down and we do start accruing some cards. Choke. Sure, we'll let that go through for now. Maybe that's risky, but I think we're okay with that. Like, we've got so many lands in play in our hand right now. I think we can just go for it. Attack. No blocks. Let's ninjutsu this guy in. Blue, black. Bounce this. Drawing some cards. A Force of Will. Alright. Maybe we're supposed to counter that one. I don't know. Feels like we can play through that relatively well, but I'd rather have the mana I'd rather have the stuff to counter the thing that actually beats us rather than the thing that can potentially slow us down. This is just like a 3-mana wasteland, right? Like 3-mana sinkhole at this moment in time. So they might have an endurance here because it's taps for green due to the Yavimaya. Is that what we're getting here? A Swords to Plowshares on our Ingenious Infiltrator. I think we counterspell this. Pitching. Oh no, we have to do it with our Force, don't we? What are we going to pitch? So this turn we're just playing 2 Changeling Outcasts, right? So I think we just pitch the Yuriko here. Now we've got a draw step to find another blue card here. Is this going to be a crop rotation? Feels like it's going to be a crop rotation. We can't Force Negation this because it's in our turn. Thespian Stage. So they can make a 20/20 right now if we don't find a Brazen Borrower. Understood. Ingenious Infiltrator. That's not really the one, is it? No, he's going to make it now and swallow our guy. Yeah, we're just dead here. Yeah, like we could have let our guy die, but then we've traded one of our precious blue sources for the thing that doesn't get to do anything here. And then maybe we could just play 2 Changeling Outcasts, then let our guy die, and then what, I guess. Maybe that would be better, and then we end up pitching our we can pitch our Force of Negation to the Force of Will on their crop rotation, and then hold up the Yuriko and still play the Yuriko. Maybe that line is just better, actually. Yeah, I think we could have played that one better. I just didn't want to lose our only creature when we were already underneath the choke. Again, we could have countered the choke, but I wanted to counter the thing that kills us. So maybe I said that and then immediately countered with swords. Yeah, I don't like how I played that one towards the back end there, but hopefully it's a learning experience. Anyway, let's move on. We're on the play for round 2. We don't have any mana sources, so this is a straight up mulligan. This is turn 2 Yuriko with Force of Negation backup. We can keep this on. We need to keep both of our lands, our Ornithopter. Probably we can bin off one of the Yurikos. I think that's fine. Play an Ornithopter. Our opponent's probably going to know what we are as soon as they see the Ornithopter. We're going to play out this Misty Rainforest so we at least can represent a Daze potentially. Maybe we're supposed to crack this for an island now, but I would quite like the ability to get an underground sea. So we could definitely walk into a stifle here if we're not careful. And there's a Force of Will. Let's see what happens when we crack this. We did not get stifled. Okay. Let's attack. We can play around a Daze here if we want to, which I think I will. I'll just get this Moon Circuit Hacker in. Like, it's the same deal here, but if they're holding a removal spell, it's not going to hit the scarier thing. Then next turn, we can draw 2 cards off of these. So it ends up being more cards overall, I think. Because next turn, we draw 2 cards, whereas if we done it the other way around, I guess we still can draw 2 cards next turn as well. But I think the Moon Circuit Hacker playing around Daze is just slightly better for us there. Okay, our opponent is probably some kind of combo deck. What do I do? Why am I playing around Daze when I'm ninjutsuing creatures? That's not how ninjutsu works. Ignore me. I've had a long day. Alright. Let's go and get some stuff. Can I have some cards, please? If these both connect, then the chances of us winning the game are incredibly high. 4 damage. Boom. 0 damage. And we've got to draw a discard here. And I think we'll bin off. So we've got a whole bunch of cards here now. So we got the Force of Willing our Ornithopter. Sure. That's not really where the problem lies for you right now, but interesting. I'm not upset getting that too far. Maybe they're trying to bait out action from our part, and they're trying to resolve a combo. But we have Force of Will and Force of Negation if they're trying to combo us. And they've only got 5 cards in hand, so I'm quite happy with our spot. Yeah, playing the Moon Circuit Hacker there doesn't make the most amount of sense now I think about it. When we did that. Okay, let's have a look. This looks like Doomsday with the green splash that I've seen a bit of. Let's see what we get. Okay, so this is a lure-in. So this can bounce our guy. That's fine by me. Let's just kill this now. Because then our 2-1 can get through. And draw some cards. A Force of Will pitching the Cavern Harpy. I guess we will Force of Negation this back, pitching with a Hacker here. I spent a lot of resources to make sure that that guy got to stick around, so I think this attacks this turn. We put this in because it's the most damage. Well, not necessarily. It can be. If we hit Force of Will here, just a fatal push. That disincentivizes me for playing this Moon Circuit Hacker though, in case we need to. I think we do just play out the Hacker so we can kill them next turn, right? That seems like the clever thing to do here. So we've taken down our fatal push, but we have a Force of Will. Okay, our opponent is just casting an Uro, that's fine. So we get to hopefully bash them for load this turn. So we can Brainstorm here first, and we can stack our deck in a way that's going to mess our opponent up. So if we put this on top, and then this on top, and we go to attacks, attack with all creatures, put in this guy. So we want these ones on the bottom because we know the top 2 cards of our library. So we kill them off of the trigger here because we know we've put 9 CMC. Excellent. Sure. So Allure-in is an interesting one. Back to Basics is going to be good here. All of our counter spells probably have worked. The Leyline of the Void can stop their backup plan of Uro, but I think we just want to go around that anyway. Hydroblast has no targets here. Brazen Borrower, if they're trying to resolve an Alluring, this is something that can bounce it at an awkward moment on the stack for them, so I'm a big fan of having this. They're trying to resolve a 4-mana spell, so I think Daze is good here. Maybe it's the Retrofitter Foundry is probably a bit weak here. And then we have to make another cut. Killing their creatures is actually pretty useful. I think we have to keep that in. They don't have that much removal themselves, so maybe we can board out one of our 1 or 0 drops. That might be a little bit sketchy, but I think it's probably okay. Probably the Outcast that goes. Or are we cutting a Ponder? Ponder does dig us to the right things. But no, I think, yeah, we can cut a Ponder, I think. We want to keep... If we're cutting the Retrofitters, we need to keep our 8 guys in, I think. Alright, this hand doesn't do anything because we have no mana again. Having a lot of those today. Yeah, this seems good. We remove one of these cards. So we're definitely keeping the Ornithopter. We're definitely keeping our blue cards for this, which means it has to be the Snuff Out. So Ornithopter into Infiltrator. And carry on from there. Right, so we've got Fatal Push now. So that's kind of replaced the Snuff Out that we threw back, which is nice. So next turn we can put in the Infiltrator or the Yuriko, depending on what the board state looks like, whether a 2-3 is going to be better or the 1-3. They do get to see the cards we get with the 1-3, which is a little bit awkward. But the 1-3 can represent more damage. A Brainstorm. This is not worth firing the Force of Negation on. This is to stop the Alluring coming into play. I don't know if our opponent's playing the 3 or the 4 colour build. Cabal Therapy. They're going to name Force of Will, I suspect, here. Or they'll name one of our ninjas. But we have both ninjas, so we don't read. Yuriko. Okay, so they want to get the Yuriko gone. That's fine by me. We drew a blue card. Just what we wanted. Let's get ourselves a Swamp and an Island. Because we have back to basics in our deck now, so let's go to attacks. Ninjutsu this little lad in. Get a little bash. Boom. Draw a card. A land, that's nice. We'll play our Ornithopter in case we can get another ninja. We want to hold this Brainstorm for now because it's our blue card. Not that we have the mana to cast it right now. Okay, another basic from our opponent. A Carpet of Flowers. Again, we have to let that go so we can just counter the Alluring. They're probably going to play something in their second main off of this Carpet mana. So only giving them 1, but like they could probably play an Uro here. They're going to Cabal Therapy us. So we're going to lose our Force of Negation here. That's fine. Not great. Don't get me wrong, but if we lose the Force of Negation, we still have a Brainstorm to rebuild. Oh, they named Fatal Push. Interesting. Baleful Strix. Okay. I see where we're working at. Yeah. Alright. So I think we do need to cast this Brainstorm this turn. Let's have some cards, please. Okay. So probably putting this back. And this back. Let me go and get this. We'll crack this off. We're looking for Fatal Push or Snuff Out here. Islands, cast a Brainstorm. It's not really the one, is it? So I guess we're putting back... tricky. Probably put back Brainstorm and land. So we can draw the land next turn. Although we'd rather draw the Ponder, wouldn't we? That's going to be a turn later. A little bit of a tough one, this, actually. This will put this and the Ponder, because we'd rather pitch the Brainstorm, I think, right now. Because we're likely to fire off some cards from our hand soon. And the Ponder can shuffle. We're not going to attack into Strix, unfortunately. They can Cabal Therapy away our counterspell here. But we do have a backup counterspell. So they shouldn't be able to resolve Alluring that easily this turn. And if they do, they might not have the ability to win off of it straight away. 2 green mana, this usually means an Alluring turn. Right, so I want to flash this one back. Yep, they know we have a Force of Negation. They're probably going to name that. They've also got rid of their guy, though. Yeah, sure. So we have Force of Will blue card. They have the mana for Veil of Summer plus Alluring here, which is probably going to be game, depending on the build they're running. Eternal Witness. So this is just going to get back a Baleful Strix. I think we might have to just get rid of this one, you know. It kind of checks our guy a little bit, but it gives them another Cabal Therapy, so we're going to lose our card anyway. I think we just have to get rid of this. They might just get in the Brainstorm back with it. This might be a bait. I don't know. But I think we can't let them have that. We need to hit them with our Ingenious Infiltrator this turn. Right, so we want to cast this Ponder. We're probably shuffling because their top card is a land. Is a Daze going to be good here? They're going to have 2 mana, so they're always going to be able to play around. I think we just go any order and shuffle. That's a good one. Wait, what? Why didn't we go to attacks? I misclicked through my attacks. Okay. That's a terrible, terrible shame. It's probably going to cost us the game. If they have a lowering in the combo here, it doesn't, but it's still embarrassing. Okay, so this is this guy. Recruit of the Guard. This goes and gets the Merfolk, which then bounces the Recruiter. Yeah. And we can just let them get it here. I know I've played against this. I've played with this deck, so I know it is. Okay, so our mistake there didn't really cost us. But again, it's still pretty terrible. I guess we might have been able to double Daze. Oh, I hate misclicking. Okay, let's begin sideboarding. I don't think we have any changes to what we're doing here. We just have to carry on like this. We're on the play, so our Dazes will be better. Hopefully we can temper them out. We need a 1-drop here. I think we need to mulligan this one. Oh, why do we keep getting these hands with no lands? Yikes. Is this better than a 4-card hand? Like, these are just blanks at this point. I think we have to mulligan. Okay, so we have Ornithopter, Changeling Outcast, Yuriko, Daze. 3 of these cards have got to go. We can't get rid of all of our mana sources. Probably get rid of the Misty. And we probably need the Daze in case stuff pops off. So it's either a case of keeping our Changing Outcast. I think the Changing Outcast is going to be better than the Ornithopter given our mana base right now. Oh, it's 3 cards you have to get rid of, isn't it? Yikes. Maybe we have to get rid of the Daze here. Ugh. And this is a game we lose very easily. Is our creature going to get Fatal Push this turn? Let's find out. Okay, didn't get Fatal Push, so we're getting some cards back. We drew a Fatal Push of our own, but they know we have this. So their Cabal Therapies are going to be pretty good against us because they get to seal the things we draw. Or half of the things we draw. So they know our 2 non-land cards in hand right now. But if we can get the Changing Outcast down and get it attacking and drawing some more cards for us. Okay, so this is a creature we can kill and they know we can kill it. It's a bit of an awkward one to have to kill, unfortunately, but I think we do have to kill it. So we can keep attacking. Let's attack. Let's get another card. It's a bad one. Okay, so we'll play this because they know we have it. And we'll play this because they know we have it. And also, it's a ninja for the purposes of Yuriko. Ponder, sure. We'll let that go through. We want to hold up our fetch land, so if we draw Brainstorm, we can at least shuffle away. So hopefully we get to draw 3 cards in our next turn, including our draw step. And that should hopefully undo our mulligan. Carpet of Flowers. Okay, so they're going to get a bunch of mana in their second main phase. They could play an Uro, for example, which is fine for us. It's not great, obviously, but it's not something that is going to roadblock our creatures. Green, green, and they got the blue there. Oh no, they're tapping it. Abrupt Decay on our guy. Okay, so we are left with just a 1-1 now. So our game is probably over. Back to basics. This hurts us more than our opponent right now. Because they have a Carpet of Flowers anyway, so they don't even care about it. I think we just hold this as a blue card, to be honest. And I think we don't even play one of these out. I guess we play one and then we can play a hardcast Force of Will next turn if we draw one, actually. This game is pretty much over. We have given our opponent more mana with this island that we play, so we're probably supposed to play the Prismatic Vista there. Alluring. We can't counter this. Do they have... Okay, they got Cavern Harpy. And then in response they put in the Strix. The Strix drains us for 2. The Cavern Harpy bounces the Strix. Oh, it bounces itself and then it bounces the Strix here. Yeah, so they do this and then we're dead. They repeat this enough times. So we definitely made a mistake in one of the games, I think. Well, we made the misclick here, so I'm going to count that as a mistake, even though it was a manual dexterity issue. So, but the third game we got absolutely trashed. We did mulligan to 4, and they had a kill spell for our only action. Which is what I found generally with ninjas, is if they can hit like the one thing that like your one lit piece that you're relying on, then your sort of whole house of cards collapses. But once you get to connect once or twice with it, it becomes impossible for them to do that because you've got so much card advantage. But we didn't really have it there. All right, let's go to round 3. All right, this hand seems like a pretty good one for round 3. I'm going to keep this. We're on the play, so we go Swamp into Changeling Outcast. And then we get to make Yuriko on the second turn. We've got a Daze that we can't use here. But that was the only way we could get the Swamp on turn 1. So let's hope. If they're smart, they might just kill our guy straight up. Yeah, we can't counterspell this. Awkward, but that's life. Alright, so I think we are playing out the Ponder this turn. Yeah, I guess so. We'll put this, then the Retrofitters, then the Ornithopter. We can play out our Ornithopter here. Then we have Yuriko plus Retrofitters going on if we need it. We've got Daze, we've got Force of Negation, we've got some options here. I imagine our opponent is on... Oh, okay. Spoke too soon. I think we can Daze this. We don't really want to have to deal with this. Let's bounce our island. There's our Retrofitters. We play our island. Attack with our little guy. Ninjutsu this in. Draw a Brainstorm, I think. No, Murderous Cut, isn't it? Oh, 5 damage. Yeah. It's almost like I meant to do that, right? Okay. Let's see how we go. Flood Strand. A Stone Void Mystic. So we can cut this one, so we don't care so much about this. What are they going to find? They're going to show us a Shuko and tell us that there's some sort of breakfast build with red in. Or is this Coldra Complete? Sure, that's not gonna come into play on my watch. Okay, so we're changing Outcast here. I think we're probably brainstorming first. Okay. I don't think we want this Outcast. And the Hacker's a thing for later. Or do we want probably the Retrofitters can go here. Play this out. So we can ponder first and see if we can find a way of protecting our cut. Or if we suspect our opponent has a Daze, we can then go and fetch a Daze. We can have this as a land. I think we're supposed to ponder here. Okay. Foundry, Outcast, Force of Will. Okay, so now we can cut this guy. We don't care about the cards in our graveyard. Let's get rid of this. So we have a Force of Will that we can use to defend this spell. Fluster Storm. That is not one that defends this. Okay. So now I think we lose the game. They probably block here. They did block. Alright, it's going to be tough. Because they're going to get Cauldra into play this turn. But if the Cauldra attacks us, then on the backswing we do get to hit them with 2 Yuriko triggers. So that's something they're going to have to consider. Now we know we've just got a 1-drop on top, but we don't know what the next card after that is. Because we've got 2 1-drops on top right now. They're ploughing our Thopter. How important is this for us? We kind of need both of these to race the Cauldra. I think we have to counterspell this. Because if they have another removal spell... Okay, they didn't have a land at the time, so the idea was that maybe they didn't have a land, so if they cast another removal spell, they can't put their thing in. Snapcaster, okay, they're just going for the ending rather than trying to... Okay, so going for the ending on our Ornithopter instead of putting the Cauldra in. So we've bought ourselves a turn away from Cauldra, but now what? It's going to be tough out there. So play this little guy. Do we play out our Moon Circuit Hacker just to help us go wide? I think we probably do. Doesn't feel amazing, but it's kind of the price you pay with ninjas sometimes. Like your guys tend to be pretty bad on board versus most other creatures, which is why it can sometimes be a bit tricky. Bit needle threading. So they've got 2 cards in hand, one of them's Cauldra. I suspect they play the Cauldra this turn because they'll still have 3 mana available after that. Looks like they're going to hold back the Cauldra to block with. Interesting. We have an unblockable guy though. Let's play this one out. Because what this does is turns this into a 4/4 if they have a removal spell. So they can't block this. Have something that costs loads of mana on top of my deck would be nice. That's not something that costs loads of mana, is it? So I think we play this out. Because if we draw another land, we can make 2 servos in a turn. Is that right? No, we can make a servo and then we can make an outcast into a 4/4 if we want to. But we're probably better off this as a 1/1 rather than a 4/4, which is a weird thing to say. But we can fog some damage from this with by making some tokens, but they're not going to fog a lot of damage. But again, if this attacks, they can't block. So we don't have to worry so we can attack more freely into our opponent's things. Just make a little guy. Alright, so this is 1 to turn it into a thing. Guess we're going to attacks here. So if we attack with everything, we can trade some stuff off. They'll probably trade off the Yuriko if I give them the chance. Would I like to trade my Moon Circuit Hacker for a Snapcaster Mage? I think that's fine. If we trade it off for a Stoneforge, that's also fine. If they have another equipment in hand, that's a bit annoying, but so be it. Another Changing Outcast. Not actually a terrible draw. So when this little guy, obviously at any point they kill our Yuriko, it's lights out for us. This looks like a hard cast Force of Will on our 1-mana 1/1. I can see why they're doing it because it represents a lot more damage than just a 1/1. Yeah, sure. Goodbye, Changing Outcast. We barely knew you. So we can turn this into a flyer and then turn it into a 4/4 if we want to. It'll cost us 2 life, but that doesn't change the clock here. So we're going to crack our fetches here, get ourselves a 4/4 guy. Underground Sea. I think we attack with all of our guys. We can get blown out by a bunch of stuff here, but I think we need to pressure our opponent. Alright, just the chump block here. Well, it's not a chump block, it's a ponder. Okay. So we've got 6 damage coming in. This can make a servo and then untap. So we need 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so we can cast this ponder and set up for a better turn. Guess we put these like this. Play our land. Our opponent is showing us 6 damage and we have 7 life. Our Changing Outcast is lethal next turn because you know it's on top of our library. If we need to, we have an emergency Brainstorm that can find us nothing of use, right? Because we don't have enough stuff here. But it could find us 1 more card down. Okay, so where's this Mystic Sanctuary going to find them? Another Brainstorm, sure. They're looking for a removal spell for our 1-mana 1/1. If they do that, we can turn it into a 4/4, which will force them back on blocks, and the Yuriko will be enough to kill them on its own if they block here and here. A Stoneforge Mystic. Sure. This can get a Batterskull, but it won't be able to attack this turn. Okay, they've conceded. Alright. We got there in the end. So our opponent is a 3-colour deck. I think the red, though, is mostly going to be for Hydroblasts. Interesting. So our opponent's deck is probably just going to be like non-stop removal. So this is a matchup where possibly doing this to shut off their Snapcaster Mages, as well as just give us a thing that is harder for them to play around removal-wise. That might be an option. They could be a Monastery Mentor deck. So I think this Plague Engineer might be useful. Brazen Borrower bouncing a Germ token is definitely going to be useful here. I don't think we want the cuts, and the Snuff Outs don't seem great here. This gets us Brazen Borrower and possibly 2 Plague Engineers for if they are playing Monastery Mentor, but this is also just another threat that can help us out. The Force of Negations don't feel where we want to be. Maybe Back to Basics is going to be useful here. Or we want some more removal. I suspect they're just going to play True Name Nemesis and just kill us with that. So Plague Engineer is also another out to that. Alright, we're going to submit like this. So we kind of got the Mentor and the True Name covered with the Engineer. Obviously, we're going to have another 7 with no lands in, which keeps happening with this deck. That's mulligan. Yikes. And again, I can keep this one. I don't want this. We've got to get rid of 1 other card. So we can have our engine here. And Back to Basics is looking bad when one of our only lands is a non-basic. So goodbye Back to Basics. So one of the other reasons I like Moon Circuit Hacker is that it's also a creature that you can cast relatively well on curve. Like just a 2-mana guy is sometimes going to be able to get in a little bit. Whereas like Ingenious Infiltrator doesn't. But putting it in for ninjutsu is obviously pretty bonkers. Alright. I think we are on play the Changeling, play the Ornithopter. So next turn we might be able to put 2 Moon Circuit Hackers into play. And draw 2 cards, which will undo our mulligan. But depending on what our opponent plays, we might not want to do that. We might want to put 1 in. Prismatic Ending, sure. Okay. Not super fine, but it'll do. Okay, so we can put in the Moonsacre Hacker and play around the removal spell here. If they remove this, we can put in the other Moonsacre Hacker. Right, so Ornithopter. And we don't want to fire this Brainstorm off just yet. We can hold that. If we need like some sort of emergency thing, we can always fire it off end of turn. Not a massive fan of doing that. But our mana's going to be tied up next turn anyway, so... The lands our opponents fetch makes me think we don't have to worry about Blood Moons and stuff, so I'm just going to get this Underground Sea. And we will fire this off now to be mana efficient in our next turn. We might find a Daze here. We found a Force of Will. Put this on top, and then we put the... we kind of want the Ingenious Infiltrator. We don't need the Hacker next turn, do we? I think we do need to fight over this, because the Cauldron is a bit of a beating for us. Question is, which of these do we get rid of? I think I'd rather get rid of the Brainstorm at this point. I doubt they would fight over that. Yeah. So we have the Ingenious Infiltrator this turn. Attack with all creatures. Ninjutsu. Blue. Black. Goodbye Ornithopter. Bash you up. Draw a whole bunch of cards. Put this one on the bottom so we get to see more cards before we decide what we're discarding. Let's loot away. I think we're probably looking at looting away the Ponder, is that right? Or is it the Moonsacre Hacker? Maybe it's the Hacker, and then we can play land Ponder this turn, and the Ornithopter. That seems pretty good. I think I'm just going to get an island on this one, just in case. Let's have a Ponder. Wow, these are all pretty nice options to have. Then we'll put the Rainforest, then the Engineer, and the Push. We could have stacked it in a way so that we are going to do more damage with our Yuriko, but we can stack the Ingenious Infiltrator triggers as we wish. So if our opponent has a Supreme Verdict this turn, it'll be pretty good. Okay, so we have the removal spell for the Stoneforge Mystic this turn. Batterskull has entered the revealed card zone. So the good thing about Batterskull for them is that they can probably cast it next turn anyway. Another Stoneforge Mystic. Okay. So this can get them a Cauldron. It can get them a Jitte if they have one, which would be pretty good against our little guys. Just the Cauldron. Okay, understood, opponent. Okay, so do we Fatal Push now, or do we see if they block because they have two Stoneforge Mystics? I think that is a relatively good idea. So we're going to attack with these guys. Sure, so this is kind of what we wanted to happen. So we will Ninjutsu this one back here. So we know the next card is a land. So we want to put the Ingenious Infiltrators on top, so we draw the land rather than trying to dome our opponent for no damage off of it. Okay, so we deal them 1, we deal them 2. So I play this for an island. I think we can kill this and play out an Ornithopter and pass. So we have the Daze now to cover the Batterskull, so they have to cast it for 5. We can then Daze it. Now they might be able to do something about that, but we shall see. Feels like we are having a better time of it right now than we have in some of the previous games, which is good. Hopefully they're just playing the Batterskull and not a Supreme Verdict though. A Batterskull. I'm going to return this Underground Sea to our hand. Alrighty, our opponent should be pretty dead, I think. Okay, let's scoop it up. They don't even want to see us deal the fun damage. So we got a match win there. That felt a lot more like it. I think we also played a bit better in that match as well, which certainly helps. But we didn't have to mulligan Super to Oblivion too much, and we managed to just get guys to stick. And normally, if you can sort of get the tempo a little bit in your favour, you run away with the game, which is what happened. All right, we are 1 and 2. Let's go to round 4. Right, this is our opening hand. Here's an odd one. We have Island Ponder. I think this is the lower end of what we should keep. Our opponent's mulligan to 6 cards. I think we can keep this one. Oh, they've mulligan to 5. Maybe we're supposed to mulligan to counterspells. 4. Wowzers, trousers. 3. Okay, our opponent's probably running Lion's Eye Diamond and Echo of Eons in their deck. That would be my assumption here. That's the deck that most routinely mulligans below 5 cards. Because it's basically free, right? You just get a whole new 7. Let's see how dead we are. Marsh Flats. Okay, there could be a reanimated deck. Hapless Researcher. Okay. Let's see how this goes for us. Okay. Play this. I don't think our mana base is going to be under threat here. So we're going to get an Underground Sea. And we're going to cast this Ponder. I don't think we're supposed to snuff this out. But maybe we are. Force of Negation is very much what I would like to see. I'll put this Swamp on bottom, then the Brainstorm, and the Force of Negation. I don't think we're supposed to snuff this guy out. Maybe we are. It's like a counter spell for their enabler. Our opponent's mulligan's so hard. Maybe we are supposed to. This feels weird. Sure. Draw a card and discard a card. Opponent. Okay, an Archon of Cruelty. You have made your game plan abundantly clear to me. No. Okay. So we can either Brainstorm here or we can try and get a threat into play. I think we're supposed to try and get a threat into play because then we can find a lot more cards. So we may as well get an island here. Cast our little Moon Circuit Hacker. And then next turn we can Yuriko and then have a Brainstorm with more cards in our hand to try and find answers. So our shields are down for this one turn. How much can they punish us with their ridiculous mulligan? Oh, they can super punish us. I see. Sure. Okay, so we lose this. And we lose our Prismatic Vista, I think. Okay, so Snuff Outs won't kill this. Murderous Cut will. And that's about it. We don't have Brazen Borrowers in our deck. A little too late, deck. So this hits us for 9 next turn. So we get one more chance to try and find it. So I guess we put Push and Retrofitters on top. And then next turn we try and draw into Murderous Cut. So we're probably losing our... It doesn't really matter what... Actually, we should have kept the Retrofitters here because we're going to lose our Force of Will here anyway. Alright. Do your worst opponent. Or not, I guess. Would be nicer. So we might as well get rid of the Yuriko here just in case there's something that immediately wins on the spot. But it doesn't really matter actually because we know the next card of our library don't help us. We need our Brainstorm to find a Murderous Cut. If that happens, then we're okay. Grief. Grief, grief, grief. We have to Brainstorm in response. None of the... So the extra card we found was a Moon Circuit Hacker there. So we're dead here. Alright. I would like to board in my Leylines of the Void. I guess that means we're supposed to board in Helm, but Helm is so expensive. That feels like a bad one. Like, Snuff Out's an easy one to come out. Force of Wills you need to keep. Force of Negation, Dazes, all these things make sense. Retrofitters feels like it's going to be ridiculously slow here. Fatal Push is also pretty bad. The one of Murderous Cut is probably okay, but it could just be a Borrower. It's going to be similar, although Murderous Cut does allow us to kill something, whereas the Brazen Borrower might just end up letting them reload with a Show and Tell. So we're supposed to cut 2 cards to fit in these things. They're not really going to mess with our creatures. We can't really cut blue cards because we need to hit all our blue pips, really. So maybe we're supposed to cut Changing Outcast here. Let's give this a try. We have a Force of Will. But I don't think that's good enough. In these matchups, one discard spell and then this doesn't do anything. I think we're just looking for... Okay. This has Force of Will, Leyline, Helm. Helm is actually okay-ish in this matchup on its own. So we'll keep this. One of these cards has to go back. I think it's the Yuriko. We'll keep both forces and we can pitch Force to Force. And then if we draw more blue cards, we have more options. Let's play an Underground Sea and pass. So we're just trying to Force of Will the thing that blows up Leyline here. Alternatively, we Force of Will Show and Tell when that happens. I don't think we're supposed to Force of Will. Although if they take a Force of Will, we can't Force of Will. I think we just let them see this and see what they want here. So they're on green mana, so they might be able to just blow up our Leyline with something. Okay, so they took that. So we still have the Force of Will. So losing the game is what they were more worried about right there. Interesting. All right, play the land they know about and pass a turn. So we've got Force of Will blue card, and we've got Leyline in play. So Show and Tell is the spell we have to counterspell. Does our opponent not keep more lands? Okay. Interesting. Another Helm of Obedience. We'll play out this Underground Sea. We're looking to draw a land next turn and put the Helm into play. Our opponent might have Force of Vigor, but we can Force of Will that. We have a Daze now. Okay, so we have multiple layers of protection. We just need to find a land to stick our Helm. Entomb. So this is just being used to get a card out of their deck. So they're probably... What usually happens here is you entomb for another entomb. Yeah. So that's just some thinning. which suggests to me our opponent doesn't have an answer immediately for our thing, which is good. Polluted Delta. Let's play this out. Get an island. Crack this. Swamp. 1, 2, 3, 4. Can I have a Helm of Obedience? They don't have any mana for Daze, so there's no point trying to play around it. Sure. So we need this to survive a turn. We have 2 counter spells available. It can't be hit by the uncountable things like Abrupt Decay. They've conceded from the game. Sure. Our Leyline was good. Excellent. Now, do we want this Brazen Borrower? I don't think so. Maybe we can board this out for a Yuriko here. Actually, we need to keep the Yurikos in. We brought out Ingenious because we got such a high curve here that this should be loads of damage actually. All right, I think this is where we're at. We could board him back to basics, but I don't think we want to be doing that. Because our opponent kind of gets like one stab at the knife, but we have to have Leyline on turn 1. I don't think we can win this game without a Leyline. This has a Leyline. It doesn't have any mana sources. I think we have to go again. This has a Leyline and counter spells. We keep 2 cards go on the bottom. Is it Force of Will Moonhacker? Or is it... So it depends what hate our opponent has for Leyline as to whether or not we want 2 Leylines in play. If they have something like Assassin's Trophy, then we want to have 2 Leylines in play. If they have something like Force of Vigor, then 1 is good enough. Tricky. It's a tricky choice, this one. 2 of these cards have got to go. One of them is definitely a Moon Circuit Hacker. Now, the other one is either a Force of Will Moon Circuit Hacker or a Leyline. I think it probably is the Leyline, and we just hope that 1 Leyline is good enough. Because otherwise, we're never going to make inroads into this game to win it. Now, we might end up pitching a Moon Circuit Hacker to a Force of Will anyway. But a Thoughtseize doesn't break our counterlock here. Sure, you can Thoughtseize us. We still have a counterspell available. They might get rid of the Hacker, but I doubt it. It's probably just one of the Force of Wills, and they're going to work through the other one. Unmask, targeting us. Yep, they can take the other Force of Will. This would be a great time to draw another Force of Will. Really annoy our opponent. Same thing, right? Let's play an island. Our opponent's deck could have Force of Wills in, but it feels like they're much more on the discard side. And they're just using blue spells as ways of filtering. Hapless Research, we can't counterspell this. Because it is a creature. And this does not hit creatures. So we'd like to draw a blue card. Or a land. An Ornithopter. Okay, that's actually alright too. That turns on our Hacker next turn. But does mean that we need to draw a blue card. Otherwise, we'll let down our Force of Negation shields. I don't think we can just attack and hope that it works. And draws us a blue card. I think that's really unnecessarily risky. A Prismatic Vista. Sure. We will not attack. Because this prevents us 1 damage. Alright, we could very easily just have a blue card on top. But if we don't, then we effectively can lose the game for no reason. So what have they exiled? Fairy Macabre. That is an interesting one. Alright, Polluted Delta's being cracked. Bayou. Is this an Assassin's Trophy? A Show and Tell. I'm going to say no to this one. Alright. So now we're living on the top. One of our ninjas is pretty good here. Can't argue with a Brainstorm either. Especially when we already have a fetch round to go with it. I guess we put the Prismatic Vista and the Brainstorm on top. And then we just hold onto this Daze. And then next turn we can Brainstorm with a fetch land. Another Show and Tell. We'll say no to this one. Now this game is a long way from over. But we've certainly managed to get through a lot of our opponent's resources here. So we know one of the cards on top. So I think we are going to Brainstorm here. And Helm of Obedience and Daze are both things I would like to have in my hand, I think. So I guess you put the Helm, then the Vista, and we keep the Daze in hand. It's going to be a slow way of winning, but I think it's quicker just to try and draw into lands than it is to try and draw into lethal threats here. We've got the next Show and Tell covered as long as I don't have a land. So play our Vista. If for some reason we need to emergency pivot away from this Helm, then we can. But I suspect we're going to leave this on top and not shuffle right now. A Hapless Research, sure. I really enjoy this card, by the way. I think it's a cool card. Helm of Obedience. That's the thing we knew was on top. So now we're just looking for a land. And we're away. We have a Daze to protect us. If they cast a Show and Tell, we put in our Helm of Obedience and kill them. So it's a thing we can do as well. So I'm pretty happy with our spot right now. A Brazen Borrower. We can use this to beat down if we want to, but I don't think we do. I think we just pass a turn. Maybe we'll flash it in end turn. We'll see. I think I'd rather just keep this for a blue card, to be honest. Like, the way we're winning the game is not by reducing our opponent's life total. Grief. I guess we can hard cast this if we want to. Let's go an island here. Cast this. No grief. Okay. An underground sea. Because of our opponent's discard, I think it's best we just put this into play right now. Like, if our opponent had removal, they probably would have removed our removal for these sorts of things. They probably would have removed our Leyline already. Doesn't mean they can't draw it this turn and just blow us out there. Hapless Researcher. An Archon of Cruelty. And a land. A show and to tell. Okay. Do you want to play this? I say no. We'll keep this to bounce whatever they put into play. Okay, so they have a Grizzlebrand. Do they have Force of Vigor in their deck? Force of Vigor doesn't work without mana ramp here because in my upkeep I have my Helm of Obedience. Ah, but I guess they can blow it up in response to me activating it. Yeah, this could be tricky. We can always just draw a Murderous Cut and kill this. And then our opponent's on 1 life, which makes things a little bit troubling for them. But I do have like a bajillion cards in hand. So if we'd have held on to this for a show and tell, we could have just won the game immediately. But I don't think it's right to hold on to it when our opponent's deck is chock full of unmasks and griefs and thought seizers. Yeah, we should have just put our Brazen Borrower in. Especially since that gives us removal spell into the win there. But I did want the opportunity to just bounce their guy out of play. Dark Ritual. Okay, is this Force of Vigor hard cast? Another Dark Ritual. 5, 6, 7 mana at the moment. Another show and tell. Okay. An Archon of Cruelty. Sure, we sacrifice our only guy. So we don't activate our Helm until our opponent's upkeep. That's how we play around the Force of Vigor. Now, the chance of them having Force of Vigor in their deck that looks very blue-black heavy seems low. I imagine the Bayou is just for Veil of Summer. But I'm just trying to think what they could have. They could have Assassin's Trophy. In their deck with no green spells, I think it's just better to fire this off now. And I think we do the maximum spin here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just in case we do somehow lose our Leyline, we might be able to find a creature. Oh, they've conceded, sure. Okay, so the green has to be the way that they're blowing up stuff like this. So it has to be something like Assassin's Trophy or something. Like, I don't think this deck can play Force of Vigor. So that's why we did it then, because we're playing around the trophy. All right, so we are 2-2, going into the final round and see if we can get a positive record. Let's go. This hand would be nice if we had a 1-drop guy. Do I think we should throw it back looking for a 1-drop guy? I think what we're doing is just too slow. I think we should mulligan. This is better. We can get rid of a Vista here. And say done. And I think we play this one out rather than exposing ourselves by getting an underground sea. We can't represent a Daze here. We would like to put our Yuriko into play, but if our opponent is a deck that requires us to count on something they're doing, then we can do that. Misty Rainforest into... What you got for us? Mana Dork or a Ponder? A Savannah. So this could just be a straight up kill spell for our Outcast. Yeah, okay, that's not great, but it's something we'll live with. An Ornithopter. Sure, we'll play out our Ornithopter. We'll play out our Misty Rainforest. We'll say go. Snow-covered island from our opponent. Feels like whatever creature we play might not be long for this world. But we'll find out soon. So we've got an Ingenious Infiltrator. That's a pretty good one. Is it better than Yuriko, though? On an empty board, I think probably not. So, we're going to tax. We'll attack with this. We will crack this for an island. Like if they're removing something, I'd rather they remove the Yuriko, because it's the legendary one, so it can jam up our hand if we have multiple. Ice Fang. This is not going to have... So if we counterspell this, we can put our guy in. These guys are real trouble for us. I imagine this matchup's just going to be really hard, because control decks are really hard when you're trying to resolve just these little guys. But I think getting that guy, because that also represents Death Touch as well. There's just so many problems for us if that guy sticks around. And now next turn we could possibly draw a load of cards. I hate counterspelling those little snakes, but I think it was the right call. A ponder, sure. They chose not to shuffle, which isn't amazing for us, truth be told. But we'll see. So we're looking like a Bant control deck. I don't know if it's going to be hot Bant or just regular Bant. Ice Fang usually means dedicated Bants because you need the basics for it, and you can't really have enough basics for the Ice Fang in a 4-color deck. I'm sure people do run it, but I don't think that's necessarily a great idea. Alright, back over to us. What have we got? They're killing something in our upkeep, or are they just a bit slow on passing priority here? Oh, wowzers. We can do some stuff here for sure. Okay. So I think this has to get us an Underground Sea, so we've got the flexibility here. Let's go to attacks. If they try to kill one of our guys... So we're going to turn the Ornithopter into Ingenious Infiltrator. If they go to kill like one of them ninjas once they've come down, we can then Moon Circuit Hacker it. So it's not a bad spot for them if they have a removal spell before combat. But if they wait until after we've attacked and these are unblocked, then that's where the trouble is going to be for them. Alright, so let's ninjutsu this guy. Oh, wow, we just get it all. It doesn't really matter what order we stack these because we don't know the top cards of our library. We could hit a Brainstorm and try and get them that way, but... Oh, if we just stack that differently. Okay, got 2 Snuff Outs there. Alright, so... Okay, our opponent's just conceding there. Excellent. So, let's see. Is this going to be the final game of the night? So, this Bant deck, because they're doing the snow thing, they're probably going to have a lot of basics. So, these back to basics not going to be good. Plague Engineers for the snake means that we can beat through them, so I like that. Force of Negation, not really convinced that's going to be where we're going to get a lot of joy. The Snuff Outs killing the little snakes is kind of okay, but they do kill Uro, which if it sticks on the board is going to be a bit of an issue for us. Fatal Pushes also kill Uro, so maybe Murderous Cut can go. The Retrofitter Foundry in the long games is going to be pretty useful, so I think we keep that. It's a bit tricky if we want to work out what these 2 cards should become. Maybe it's the Cut and 1 Ponder. We'll try like this and see how we fare. Again, I am no expert of ninjas. I've played ninjas 2, maybe 3 times, so I am very much a novice. But we're all learning together, and that's the fun of it. We don't have a 1-drop. I think we can do better than this. We also don't want loads of counter magic. We just want a little bit. So this has a 1-drop but no payoff, but a Brainstorm can hopefully find it. So I think we keep this, and we're probably bottoming... It's a tricky call, actually. I think it might be the Force of Negation here. Or the Daze. I think it's the Force of Negation. On lower cards, the Daze is slightly better, I think. So we want to go turn 1. So our opponent is going to be playing Wastelands in their deck because they're just Bant, which means we can't realistically go and get an Underground Sea turn 1. So we just have to go and get just play the Swamp Out for the Outcast, which means we won't be able to do much with it. Alternatively, we can just Brainstorm on turn 1. But the upside of if we draw a Ninja is so high that I think it's worth playing out the Outcast. This might just get a removal spell anyway. Right, so our opponent's turn looks like a Ponder from them, a Brainstorm, sure. So there's probably going to be Brainstorm into Fetch Land, possibly followed up by something like a Prismatic Ending on our guy, which would be annoying, but not the end of the world. Yep, so there's a Prismatic Ending, exactly as we suspected. If we'd have had an Underground Sea, we could have counterspelled that. But if we had Underground Sea and our opponent wastelanded us, we would have just lost the game on the spot, I think. So a bit awkward. We do get to start doing Retrofitter Foundry stuff soon. Is that soon now, is the question. Because if we Brainstorm, we do have to draw one of these cards again. Whereas we can Brainstorm next turn, but then it's not going to be very mana efficient, is it? So I think we want to do this Brainstorm now, as ugly as that is. Not a fan of many of these cards. So I think we're just putting 2 lands on top. Actually, no, we can put the second Retrofitters and a land. That's fine, I think. And now we can play out this Outcast that we've drawn, which was the reason for casting the Brainstorm. And next turn we can play out our Retrofitters and activate it if we want to, as well as shuffle away the second Retrofitters. We can decide whether or not we shuffle before, after the Retrofitters gets countered or not, because it could have something like a misstep. Sure, we can't Daze this one, but if they're using the prismatic endings on those guys, that's fine. So this is just going to get them a Dryad Arbor. If our opponent is desperately searching for land, it's probably worth dazing this. If we can shut our control player off of lands, then I think we're in a reasonable spot. That means they don't have a cantrip, because I think you cast a cantrip there instead of a Green Sun Zenith every time to find the land. So now we have a choice. I think we are pondering first, and then playing the Retrofitters. I don't think we want all of these, do we? Any order and shuffle. And then we'll play out those Retrofitters. Just going to get counterspelled, and we're going to miss the second Retrofitters. Yeah, it is going to get counterspelled. Sure. Yeah, so we're definitely going to miss that second Retrofitters. That was the option of whether or not we ponder and get the information, or we see if they're going to counter first. Okay, this is probably going to be a Noble Hierarch. Yeah. So Green Sun's for Noble Hierarch. And then it's our turn. We're going to draw another land, I think. Not a million miles away from another land, to be honest, is it? Alright, let's... We're going to be playing a 4-mana ninja, which is not how God intended. That's for sure. So what we're looking at here... 2 mana, could be a library, could be 3 mana. Okay, this could be a Zenith for 2. What is this going to be? Scavenging Ooze? Oh, just an Ice Fang, sure. These are very good against our deck, which is a bit frustrating. What have you got? Are we just casting a 4-mana guy? We're casting a 4-mana guy. I don't think we're winning this game. This can go and get us an island. Let's have our 4-mana, 2/3. Feels a lot worse than when you're paying 2 mana uncountable for that guy. That's for sure. So they're not going to have enough snow permanents to block our guy and kill it this turn. Unless they play a snow-covered land and then a snow-covered guy. Natural order. We can Daze this, but our opponent can pay. I think we just have to let this hit and maybe try and follow up the Daze for like a removal spell they have. Oh, that was it. Okay, that's not so bad. Like, yeah, it kind of does stop the thing we're doing, and it's a little bit tricky for us to kill it, but I can live with that. So I guess we're in playing our lands out so we can just do retrofitter things. We can make a servo and a counter spell. Our counter spell is very weak, obviously, but natural order just for a Leovold feels fine. Like, if that was an Atraxa, then I think we're in a lot worse shape. And they must have Atraxa in their deck, surely. We can't snuff this Leovold out. But I think we boarded out our Snuff Outs, if I remember rightly. No, we boarded out our Murderous Cut. Okay, so we should be doing it the other way around in future. Understood. Noble Hierarch, not very exciting. The Leovold probably... I guess it probably does want to attack. We can't draw additional cards because of the Leovold anyway. So they're probably alright just attacking for 5 here. I think that's a worthwhile attack. I don't think we want to fog it yet. We want to try and build up to constructs to beat it. Right, let's make a little servo. What have you got for us, deck? An Ingenious Infiltrator. Not great, to be honest. I guess we are passing the turn here. And we get to make a construct this turn if we want to. Which seems alright. We can attack with our construct and it outclasses what they've got on board right now. Okay, so now they're getting in. But we get to do the block and sack trick here. So this block's here. And then we sack it to make a servo, to make a Thopter. And we don't take any damage. We untap our Retrofitter Foundry. This is the time they have to remove our Thopter if they want to. Okay. Let's make a 4/4. They might just remove the 4/4, to be honest. That's probably the smarter move there. They have to wait for it to resolve. Okay, they're just going to get rid of that. That's fine. That guy's not really doing anything right now anyway. So they got to remove a spell for our 4/4 as well, perhaps. If we draw a land this turn... Okay, we draw a Brainstorm, which is very actively bad right now because of Leovold. Okay, just take the 4 here. And we're just trying to ride our Retrofitter Foundry all the way. Sure, so this time we take 5. But so basically every other turn it hits us. But as things get bigger and bigger on our side, they're going to have some problems, hopefully. Let's make a little guy. We can't untap. We need 1 more mana to untap and then turn this into a servo. Okay. So we get to gain 4 life. Not the most exciting, but basically invalidates our opponent's last attack. What do we draw? A Force of Will. This isn't terrible. So we can either attack here. Yeah, so if we attack for 1, then we pay 1 to turn it into a thing, pay 3 untapped. Yeah, okay, so we get to attack for 1 this turn. Oh, misclicked again. Great. Oh, having a lot of fat finger moments today. Apologies. All right. What are we looking at from our opponent here? Like, eventually this Retrofitter Foundry can do enough in theory. But we have a Brainstorm to pitch for our Force of Will if they have something scary. This is something I would like to counterspell, I think. I think it is just the Brainstorm that goes here, right? We're not drawing extra cards at any point. We don't want our opponent to get a bunch of big tokens going. There's no point in our opponent attacking this turn. Okay, so gone through the loops, made ourselves a construct. Back over to us. Another land. This is actually good for us. Let's go to attacks. So we can go 1, 2, make a servo. 1, 2, 3, untap, turn that servo into a Thopter. A Brainstorm from our opponent? Sure. A Ponder from our opponent? Sure. If they cast a natural order now, we might be able to daze it, which is nice. Now we can't daze it. They're going to attack. Okay, they're attacking. Resolve the Exalted triggers. Let's make a guy. Let's untap this. Okay, that's our last fetchable with a Prismatic Vista, so that's important to note. So this servo can block here. And then we will turn it into a Thopter. A Fatal Push. This kills the Leovold if we can let something die. Okay. That's good to note. We'll attack with all our creatures. We can turn this into a 4/4 for blocks if we want to. When we sack a guy, we also trigger our Revolt for this as well, which is quite handy. Okay, so just let that happen. All right. So I think our plan is to blow up our opponent's Leovold next turn. We can make a construct instant speed. And then we can untap, make a servo, and Fatal Push. Alright, so our Fatal Push is turned on now for killing this Leovold. We might get a better target because honestly we're beating this Leovold right now, so we don't just want to snap it straight off. Atraxa. We will float black and try and daze this. Pretty amazing that a daze is coming in handy here. This is the thing you should have... Maybe this was in their hand, which is why they didn't fetch it off in natural order. Okay, they've conceded from the game. So that's the end of the game. That's the end of the league. We went 3-2. Not so bad. Let's have a little chat about the deck. So this deck felt pretty streamlined. So last time I was playing Ninjas, Retrofitter Foundry was a card that I found was terrible. But that's because we were in the Initiative Winter, where stuff like this was just too slow. Yeah, you can make 4/4s, but 4/4s aren't good enough. You're better off having your evasion guys and just kind of trying to pull ahead with cards and just snuffing out their creatures as you go. So now that control is a thing again, Retrofitters looks a lot better. Obviously, Prismatic Ending is quite strong against Retrofitters Foundry. So we did play out all of our little rubbish 1/1 guys first to get these killed before we got our Retrofitters into play. I do like this build. I think Snuff Out is an interesting card right now because a lot of people are doing like Atraxa-y things. So snuffing those out is really awkward, and Atraxa kind of just stonewalls your attacks unless you're getting in with the Outcast, but they can usually race out because they're gaining 7 a turn with their Vigilance guy. I guess the idea is that you stop them getting there in the first place by countering their spells, but not 100% convinced this is exactly where I want to be ninja-wise, but it felt pretty fine. I've definitely got some ideas of things I'd like to do with ninjas. I think there's a real possibility that you want to be playing the 2... I don't know if he's 2 mana or what, but his ninjutsu is 2 mana, and when he hits an enemy, you can discard a card and destroy a creature or planeswalker. So it basically turns any card in your hand, like these rubbish Ornithopters or bonus lands, into removal spells. And what I sometimes find with ninjas is you can get that first hit through because you attack with your like flying Ornithopter or your unblockable Changing Outcast. So you get your first hit in. But then where do you go from there? Because you can't, because they might have a creature that's going to stonewall the creature you're putting in. So you're kind of like, oh, now what? Whereas at least that can just get rid of a thing. And I think that would be a really strong tempo thing. And I'd quite like to try that out in place of something like maybe Snuff Out. Because it's kind of doing a similar thing, except it's a ninja, so it has all your ninja synergies. And it's a little bit of getting rid of bad cards, which you sometimes have in this deck, to be honest. And you sometimes have too many cards, so pitching some is pretty good. So that's something I'd like to try out. I've also seen lists from back in the day that used to run Fallen Shinobi, which is pretty ridiculous if it ever hits your opponent, because you get to look at the top cards, top 2 I think it is, of their library, and you can cast one for free, which is, you know, in a world where people are trying to do Atraxa things, you might have a real good time. Now, you might have a real bad time too, but it's also a 5-power guy, but it is quite expensive to ninjutsu in. So I'm not 100% convinced that's where you want to be, but I would quite like to play it and see how it feels. And, you know, it'd be good for the memes, right? Just to smash someone with that. Haven't got too much else to say about this deck. We didn't play that well in the first couple of rounds, in my opinion, and we lost those rounds. Now, I think the Allura matchup we still lose. The round that I misplayed in, it was a misclick rather than a misplay, but that round we still lost that round anyway. The game that we lost wasn't the deciding game, I don't think. And then the other matchup against the Naya lands, we could have played that one slightly better for sure. I'm not sure how good a matchup that is for us because we don't have the ways of dealing with Marilage. So some of the other builds usually have 2 Brazen Borrowers main. We only have 1 in our 75, which is not a lot. Now, we can make Retrofitters tokens to chump it. That's very slow and expensive. We can make Ornithopters to chump it too, but we need to try and progress our game a little bit. And we did mulligan pretty hard a lot of times in this league because we just didn't have the lands that we needed. But we managed to pull out anyway. 17 lands is not a lot of lands. I've seen builds running 19 even without wastelands, so maybe is a little bit greedy going on 17. However, the deck felt relatively fine. I feel the sideboard plan for Leyline Helm is a weird one to me though, because Leyline makes sense. We're just kind of boarding in Helm because it's a thing that wins. So the decks we're boarding Leyline in, they're not decks that are going to kill our creatures and it makes our other game plan bad. That's not a thing that's happening. It's just we might as well have this free win button, and I'm not really convinced that's where you want to be. But I guess it's less cards and a quicker way of winning a lot of the time. But you have to have the lands in our 17 land deck to get there. I'm not sure. Maybe 4. 4 is also a lot, right? We're losing a lot of sideboard slots to 4 Helm of Obedience, so we're not getting any like additional Brazen Borrowers to help with the Dark Depths matchup. We're not getting more removal spells or Flusterstorms or whatever. So there is a real cost to playing this Helm of Obedience, and I think Leyline on its own is pretty good anyway. But maybe our guys are just too slow to beat down, and that's why. Obviously, Helm of Obedience is pretty good against Show and Tell when the Show and Tell's out of the reanimated sideboards as well. So maybe that's kind of another tick in its favour. But I think this is a lot when if the Leyline doesn't win you the game, then the Helm won't win you the game anyway. As a general rule, the only time that will work is if you have a Show and Tell coming your way. So I'm not really convinced that you want 4 of these, but it is quite fun having a load of 4 drops with your Yuriko and just absolutely bapping people with your deal damage ability. Other than that, I don't think I've got really much to say about this one. When I played before, I did enjoy having Wastelands, and that would have made the Naya Depths matchup a lot better if we had access to them at least. Now, again, they might not have come in handy, and they do take up spell slots. You can't just have them as lands. So, you know, you'd have to have your 17 mana lands, and then you'd have to have some number of wastelands. But maybe they would be better than Snuff Outs. Snuff Outs weren't great today. I think the meta is moving away from Snuff Out being amazing, but it's still fine. But it can just be really awkward at times too. All right, I think we're done. I hope you enjoyed a bit of ninja action. We got a nice little positive record with ninjas, which is always, you know, always something. It's not always considered one of the top decks. I think it was actually all right during the initiative era because you had creatures that you were playing. Your whole deck revolved around playing a creature on turn 1, which meant that you could take the initiative back. And then Snuff Outs and things were quite good at killing their guys and just carrying on. like accelerating through the initiative. So I actually liked ninjas in the initiative meta, but it was a bit like the Death Shadow deck that was designed purely to beat the initiative with the griefs and things like that. It was kind of similar to that in my opinion. The list was different to this, but there was that list. The Wasteland's also very good because you get the initiative, take them off the land so they can't cast the next initiative creature and just bury them with their own abilities. So I think Ninjas has actually taken a hit from the initiative getting hit with a ban, but that doesn't mean it's, intrinsically what it's trying to do is draw a bunch of cards by hitting your opponent and then disrupt with blue spells, which, that's a tried and tested way of winning games of Magic the Gathering. So I think there's definitely room for ninjas in the meta, and if you play it enough and get good enough with it, you can definitely win leagues and things with it. Obviously, I'm not great with ninjas, so it's going to take a bit for me to win a league with it. All right, I think we're done for today. So like, comment, subscribe. Remember to do these things. They really help me out. At the time of recording this, I am less than 20 subscribers away from hitting monetization, so maybe I'll be monetized by the time this goes out. But if not, keep subscribing until I get there. That'd be great. And just watch my stuff and enjoy it, really, is what I want. All right. Thank you very much and goodbye.